Do you want G Master quality without the G Master price? Well, I do too. So, the weddings I've shot on Sony APS-C, like the a6700 with the Viltrox 27 f1.2, outshine the weddings I've shot on full frame Sony. So why doesn't Sony make a professional APS-C body besides the FX30, because that doesn't have an EVF or a mechanical shutter, and you can't really shoot a wedding. The photos on that, it's more of a video camera. Why don't they make a a6700 that's got 2 card slots? That's like professional build. Probably because no one would buy full frame. From what I've seen, I've used the full frame cameras, I've used the crop sensors. It seems like the a6700 is almost indistinguishable from the a7S III for video, unless you're in extreme low light. And the FX30 seems to be indistinguishable from the FX3, unless you're in extreme low light. I think there's something about that Viltrox 27mm f1.2 that just pops. It's so sharp and it looks full frame. When you're looking at the images, it looks like some kind of like 40mm f1.2, like really professional, like Leica lens or something crazy. I've never really seen a budget lens do that before. It really captivates me. Every picture I take with the Viltrox 27mm f1.2 just kind of captivates me. Does it captivate you? Like, look at some of these portraits I've done with the Viltrox, and the wedding photos, the engagement photos, everything I've done on that Viltrox lens is just so impressive. I find it more impressive than any other lens I've shot with on Sony. I've got the Fuji and the Sony version right now. I mean, another thing about that lens, it's got that aperture ring, it's weather sealed, it's got a metal build. I'm actually filming on it right now.
So you could shoot a wedding on any camera, as long as it has video and photos, you could use it. It may not be the best, somebody might like a retro digicam look to their wedding, but you have to kind of consult the person first before you do something crazy or try to shoot a wedding on film or something like that. You could shoot the whole wedding on your phone, but you're not going to look very professional. People might judge you for that. I might make a whole video on shooting a wedding on my phone because I do have samples for that. I used a phone for some video. I didn't put it into any of the video that I used, but I definitely shot some video on my phone while I was there, and it did a great job. The stabilization on my phone, like on the wide lens, is excellent. You don't need a gimbal with your iPhone if you have like an iPhone 13, 14, 15, anything like that. So you could shoot a wedding on any camera, as long as it has video and photos, you could use it. It may not be the best, somebody might like a retro digicam look to their wedding, but you have to kind of consult the person first before you do something crazy or try to shoot a wedding on film or something like that. You could shoot the whole wedding on your phone, but you're not going to look very professional. People might judge you for that. I might make a whole video on shooting a wedding on my phone because I do have samples for that. I used a phone for some video. I didn't put it into any of the video that I used, but I definitely shot some video on my phone while I was there, and it did a great job. The stabilization on my phone, like on the wide lens, is excellent. You don't need a gimbal with your iPhone if you have like an iPhone 13, 14, 15, anything like that. So I think one thing that's definitely playing a factor is the colors. So the a6700 is a newer camera than the a7 III, and Sony has really improved their color science in the last few years. So I think that Viltrox 27mm 1.2 is also a better lens than anything I ever had on a full frame Sony. So when I was shooting with the a7S II, I was using a lot of vintage lenses. But then when I was shooting on the A7 III, a lot of times I would use like the 85 1.8. I think there's just something about that 27 millimeter 1.2 that just has this pop and this look that to me looks more professional than the full frame Sony's. Now, if you were using like a Zeiss 55 1.4, something like that, maybe you could get that look on the A7 III as well. But to me, I almost think the a6700 performs and looks more professional. The autofocus is definitely better on the a6700 for sure. It was like a pleasure to shoot that wedding with that camera. I didn't have to worry about anything being in focus. The eye autofocus was working really good. The new IBIS and digital stabilization work really good. So most of these photos are just JPEGs. I did shoot RAW on the wedding with the a7 III, but on the wedding with the a6700, I just shot JPEGs because I like the colors out of the a6700. I still applied some filters, like some presets over the JPEGs on the a6700, and I think they actually look pretty good. I think they hold up pretty good, even though I was editing the JPEGs. Now, some of these I do have mislabeled. All of these are APS-C, the ones that say APS-C, but they're not all on the a6700. Some of them are actually on the Fuji XA7 with the Sigma 10 to 18. I also had a ZV-E10 with me, but none of these photos are from that camera. I was mainly shooting on the a6700. A few of them could be from the a6500 too. So I didn't really worry about having multiple card slots because I had multiple cameras filming and taking pictures the whole day. On the a7 III, you do have dual card slots. On the A7C or A7C2, you don't have dual card slots, or even on the ZV-E1. So you have to think about that when you're doing wedding photography. It's better to have dual card slots, but you can also send the photos to your phone as you're taking them through the apps. I also like the grip better on the a6700. It's got a nice deep grip. The only Sony grips I like better than that are like the FX3 and FX30. I like Canon grips a lot, like the R8, RP. The R7 has a really nice grip too. I sometimes get the comment, why are you talking about grips? Well, grips are super important when you're doing photography or video the entire day. If you're holding your camera for 10 hours a day, the grip is pretty important. So of course, there's the idea that the bigger camera looks more professional, but a 5D Mark III would do a worse job than either of these cameras. Just because a camera is bigger doesn't mean it's more professional, but it might make you feel more professional. And it might make the person whose photo you're taking think you're more professional. You know, sometimes the smaller camera can get better shots. You can, catch people off guard a little bit easier and get more realistic shots. But having that bigger camera just makes you come off as more professional. So the person who's actually paying you is like, oh, I'm paying a professional, and they can have more confidence in you. So sometimes showing up with a little ZV-1 or like a a6700 might make you look kind of cheesy and make them doubt your skill and your professional qualities. So you have to think about that too. Just because a camera's smaller, it's lighter, it's easier to carry, you might get better pictures, but you might still get judged either way, the big camera or the small camera. Not everybody wants a big camera shoved in their face. So Sony is the most reliable brand for wedding photography and videography. You can count on it to work with the autofocus and everything. Fuji is easier to edit because you can just shoot those JPEGs and they look great right out of camera. But I can kind of do that with the a6700. I mean, they look pretty good right out of camera and usable and realistic. And sometimes realistic looks better than like artsy for some people. There's something about video from Sony that just looks better and more professional, more realistic to me. I think Fuji video looks more like a movie, and some people actually prefer it. Some people preferred the photos and the video I took with the XA7 from Fuji, a much cheaper camera than the a6700. The XA7 has worse dynamic range. It doesn't even have an X-Trans sensor, but there were definitely people who preferred those photos. I kind of like having that wide angle lens, that Sigma 10-18. That would have been nice to have on Sony as well. Now, I didn't even bring a gimbal to this wedding. I just relied on the in-body stabilization and the electronic stabilization in the cameras. And honestly, the XA7 didn't have any in-body stabilization, just electronic, nothing in the lens, and it looked really good. I actually thought the stabilization was even better on that camera. So I do think when Fuji's talking and bragging about their electronic stabilization on that camera, it is really good. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of content, scroll through my channel, check out my other videos, and hit that subscribe button because I got a lot more videos to come. Thanks for watching.